I was married to Sarah for 5 wonderful years until one fateful night changed everything. We built what I thought was a perfect life together, but there was always someone else in the picture. Adam, her childhood best friend, became an increasingly intrusive presence in our marriage. His constant calls, unexpected visits, and the way Sarah would drop everything for him started to wear me down. Then came the moment that shattered our world. During a heated argument about Adam, Sarah looked me straight in the eyes and said those words I will never forget. Before I continue with this painful story, let me know where you are watching from in the comments. Hit that like button and subscribe to join our community of real-life stories. I still remember the first time I met Sarah. It was at my company holiday party 6 years ago. I had just started working at the marketing firm and was still trying to find my footing. She walked in wearing a red dress that immediately caught my attention. Her brown hair cascaded down her shoulders in gentle waves, and when she smiled, the entire room lit up. I found myself gravitating toward her without even realizing it. "You must be new here," she said when I finally worked up the courage to introduce myself. "Is it that obvious?" I replied, feeling a bit embarrassed. "No, I just know everyone, and I have not seen you before," Sarah laughed. Her voice was warm and inviting, making me feel instantly at ease. That night we talked for hours. I learned she worked in the graphic design department, loved hiking on weekends, and had a weakness for chocolate chip cookies. By the end of the evening, I had her number and a promise for coffee the following week. Our relationship progressed naturally after that. Coffee dates turned into dinner dates, which evolved into weekend getaways. Every moment with Sarah felt right, like pieces of a puzzle fitting perfectly together. She was kind, ambitious, and had this infectious enthusiasm for life that pulled me out of my comfort zone in the best possible way. About 3 months into our relationship, Sarah mentioned Adam for the first time. She described him as her childhood best friend who had moved abroad for work. The way she spoke about him seemed completely normal, just an old friend she grew up with and occasionally kept in touch with. Nothing about their friendship raised any red flags. "Adam and I grew up next door to each other," she explained. "Our families were close, so we were always together. He is basically like a brother to me." I thought nothing of it. We all have childhood friends who hold special places in our hearts. I even shared stories about my own best friend James, whom I had known since college. A year and a half after we started dating, I proposed to Sarah during a weekend trip to the mountains. I had planned everything meticulously, hiding the ring in my hiking boot until we reached the summit with its breathtaking view. When I got down on one knee, her eyes filled with tears, and she said yes without hesitation. That moment remains one of the happiest memories of my life. Our wedding was everything we had hoped for, intimate yet joyful, surrounded by our closest friends and family. Adam could not attend as he was still working overseas, but he sent a congratulatory video message that Sarah seemed pleased with. I remember thinking how nice it was that her childhood friend made the effort despite being thousands of miles away. The first few years of our marriage were blissful. We bought a modest house in the suburbs, painted every room ourselves, and spent weekends hunting for unique furniture pieces at flea markets. We talked about our future, planning to start a family within the next year or two. Sarah wanted 2 children, and I was on board with whatever made her happy. Despite my demanding job as a marketing strategist, I always made time to help around the house. We cooked dinner together most nights, sharing stories about our day while chopping vegetables or stirring sauces. Weekends were sacred, dedicated to either exploring new hiking trails or simply relaxing at home with books and movies. Our first anniversary trip to the coast remains etched in my memory. We stayed at a small beachfront cottage, waking up to the sound of waves crashing against the shore. We collected seashells, built sandcastles like children, and fell asleep under the stars. In those moments, I felt certain that I had found my forever person. Everything changed when Adam returned from abroad. He had spent 6 years working in Europe, but now he was back for good. Sarah was ecstatic when she heard the news, immediately planning a dinner for us all to meet. "I cannot wait for you to meet Adam," she said, practically bouncing with excitement. "You two will get along so well." I was genuinely looking forward to meeting this person who had been such an important part of my wife's childhood. The dinner was set for Friday evening at our favorite restaurant. When Adam walked in, he was not what I expected. Tall, confident, with a charismatic smile that seemed to charm everyone instantly. Sarah jumped up to hug him, holding on just a few seconds too long for my comfort. "Ashton, this is Adam. Adam, my husband Ashton," she introduced us, beaming with happiness. "Nice to finally meet the man who won Sarah's heart," Adam said, shaking my hand firmly. His voice carried a slight European accent now, which seemed to fascinate Sarah. The dinner went well enough on the surface. Adam told entertaining stories about his time abroad, and Sarah hung on every word. I noticed she barely touched her food, too engrossed in his tales to eat. I told myself it was natural to be excited when reuniting with an old friend, but something in my gut felt off. That night marked the beginning of subtle changes. Sarah's phone started buzzing constantly with texts from Adam. At first they were occasional, but soon they became frequent, sometimes even coming through at odd hours of the night. "Who texts at 2 in the morning?" I asked one night, woken by the glow of her phone. "Adam is still adjusting to the time difference," she explained dismissively. "His sleep schedule is all over the place." Adam had been back for 3 months, plenty of time to adjust to any time difference. But I bit my tongue, not wanting to sound jealous or controlling. Sarah began spending more time away from home. Coffee with Adam turned into lunches with Adam, which evolved into helping Adam set up his new apartment or taking Adam shopping for furniture. Her enthusiasm for our weekend activities diminished, often replaced with last-minute plans involving her childhood friend. "I promised to help Adam find a good hiking trail today," she would say, on what was supposed to be our Saturday together. "You understand, right? He does not know the area anymore." Our anniversary dinner was interrupted by multiple texts from Adam about some crisis with his landlord. Sarah spent half the evening texting back advice instead of celebrating with me. When I expressed my disappointment later that night, she seemed genuinely surprised. "Adam does not have anyone else here," she defended. "We are his only support system right now." I tried having an honest conversation about boundaries, suggesting that perhaps we needed to establish some guidelines about outside friendships. Sarah immediately became defensive. "Adam is not just some friend," she said firmly. "He has been part of my life since we were 5 years old. Our plans to start a family were put on hold because the timing is not right, and Adam needs support settling back in." Whenever I brought up the subject, Sarah found reasons to delay, most somehow connected to Adam's situation. The final straw in this first phase of disillusionment came when Sarah canceled our long-planned trip to visit my parents, whom she had not seen in over a year. The reason Adam was going through a rough patch after a breakup and needed her support over that particular weekend. I remember sitting alone in our living room after she left to console him, wondering when exactly I had started taking second place in my own marriage. As weeks turned into months, Adam's presence in our lives grew ever more intrusive. 6 months after his return, I came home early from work one day and picked up Sarah's phone to call her when mine died. That is when I saw the text notification from Adam. "I miss how things were before. Sometimes I wish we could go back." My stomach knotted as I set the phone down. The message could have been innocent, referring to their childhood friendship, but something about the phrasing felt intimate, loaded with subtext. That evening I tried to broach the subject carefully. "Sarah, I noticed a text from Adam today. Is everything okay between you two?" She snatched her phone from the counter, checking it with surprising urgency. "Why were you looking at my phone?" "I was not snooping," I explained. "Mine died and I needed to call you." The notification was right there on the screen. Sarah relaxed slightly but remained defensive. "Adam just gets nostalgic sometimes. We grew up together, shared a lot of memories." The message seemed a bit intimate, I ventured. "Oh my God, Ashton. Are you seriously jealous of my childhood friend? That is ridiculous." Her dismissal was immediate and absolute. Despite my concerns, I decided to make an effort with Adam. Perhaps if I understood their friendship better, my unease would disappear. I suggested the three of us grab drinks the following weekend, and Sarah enthusiastically agreed. At the bar, after Sarah stepped away to take a work call, Adam leaned in confidentially. "You know, Sarah and I have quite a history," he said, swirling his whiskey. "She mentioned you grew up together," I replied, keeping my tone neutral. Adam smiled, a flash of something like triumph in his eyes. Did she ever tell you we dated in high school senior year through freshman year of college? Pretty serious, actually. My world tilted sideways. Sarah had never once mentioned dating Adam. She had consistently presented him as a platonic childhood friend, practically like a brother. The deliberate omission felt like a betrayal. No, I managed to say. She never mentioned that. Adam raised his eyebrows. Interesting. I assumed you knew all about us. When Sarah returned, I maintained my composure, but inside I was reeling. That night after we returned home, I confronted her. Why did you never tell me you and Adam dated? Sarah froze momentarily before her shoulders slumped. It was so long ago I did not think it mattered. We were kids, Ashton. Kids who dated for nearly 2 years, I pointed out. That seems significant enough to mention, especially given how close you still are. I did not want you to misinterpret our friendship, she admitted. Some guys get weird about exes, and Adam has always been important to me. Important enough to lie by omission. It was not a lie. It just never came up. That conversation marked the beginning of regular arguments about Adam. The tension in our marriage escalated as Sarah began spending even more time with him, often returning home late without adequate explanations. When challenged, she would become defensive, sometimes turning the situation around to make me seem controlling or unreasonable. Sarah started comparing me to Adam in subtle ways. Adam always remembers which wine I prefer, or Adam noticed my new haircut right away. Each comparison was a small cut, barely noticeable alone, but devastating in accumulation. Then came the gifts. Adam began giving Sarah presents for no particular occasion. Expensive jewelry that she would wear immediately. Books with personal inscriptions. He started calling her by a nickname I had never heard before. Starlight, apparently referencing some shared childhood memory about staying up late to watch meteor showers. What disturbed me most was Sarah's unwavering defense of Adam regardless of the situation. When he showed up unannounced at my birthday dinner, interrupting our celebration, Sarah welcomed him without hesitation. When he called at midnight because he needed to talk about a minor work issue, she spoke with him for hours. When he made dismissive comments about my career, Sarah laughed along instead of supporting me. I felt like I was fighting a battle against an opponent who had been entrenched in my wife's life long before I appeared, someone who knew her histories, secrets, and vulnerabilities in ways I never could. The playing field was far from level, and Adam seemed determined to remind me of that fact at every opportunity. Our 5th wedding anniversary should have been a celebration of our journey together. I had planned a surprise weekend getaway to the same coastal cottage where we had spent our first anniversary. Reservations were made, bags were packed, and I had even arranged for Sarah's favorite flowers to be waiting in the room. 2 hours before we were set to leave, Sarah's phone rang. Adam's voice on the other end sounded distressed. From what I could gather, he was having some kind of personal crisis and needed Sarah immediately. Without even discussing it with me, she began unpacking her bag. "What are you doing?" I asked, disbelief washing over me. "Adam is really struggling right now," she explained, already changing out of her travel clothes. "He just found out his ex is engaged. He needs me. Sarah, it is our anniversary. The cottage has been booked for months. I know, and I am sorry, but this is an emergency. We can reschedule. Like we rescheduled our dinner with my boss last month when Adam locked himself out of his apartment, or like we rescheduled our weekend with my parents when Adam was feeling lonely." My voice rose with each example. "That is not fair," Sarah replied. "Those were legitimate situations." "So is our anniversary," I countered. But my words fell on deaf ears. Sarah left within 20 minutes, promising to be back as soon as possible. She did not return until the following afternoon. That night, unable to sleep in our empty bed, I decided to review our finances, something I had been putting off. What I discovered sent ice through my veins. Over the past 4 months, Sarah had transferred nearly $30,000 from our joint account to an external account I did not recognize. The transfers were labeled vaguely as personal expenses or family help. When Sarah finally returned home, I was waiting at the kitchen table with the bank statement spread before me. "What is this?" I asked calmly, pointing to the transactions. Sarah's face paled. "I can explain." "Please do." "Adam has been having financial difficulties since returning to the States. His job does not pay well, and he had some unexpected expenses. I was just helping out temporarily. $30,000, Sarah, from our joint account. Without discussing it with me, I knew you would not understand, she said defensively. Adam has always been there for me, and I have not. The hurt in my voice was palpable. I am your husband. We are supposed to make financial decisions together. It is not that simple, she insisted. Adam and I have a complicated history. So I have gathered, I said bitterly. A history you never bothered to fully explain to me. The argument escalated quickly with years of pent-up frustration and resentment boiling over. Sarah accused me of being jealous and possessive. I countered that she had consistently prioritized Adam over our marriage. Then came the moment that changed everything. In the heat of our most intense argument ever, Sarah finally snapped and revealed the truth I had suspected but hoped was not real. You want to know why Adam matters so much? Fine, Adam and I have a history. He will always be more important than you. Always. He was my first everything, and no matter what happens between us, that bond can never be broken. The room fell silent, her words hanging in the air between us. I felt as though someone had reached into my chest and crushed my heart with bare hands. The pain was physical, stealing my breath and blurring my vision. Say that again, I whispered, needing to be sure I had heard correctly. Sarah's expression shifted from anger to shock, as if she had not meant to say those words aloud. But instead of taking them back or apologizing, she doubled down. You heard me, she said, her voice quieter but no less determined. Adam was there long before you, and he will always have a special place in my life that you cannot fill. I am tired of pretending otherwise. I walked out of the room without another word, spending the night on the couch staring at the ceiling as my world collapsed around me. Sarah did not come to check on me. Instead, she grabbed her keys and left the house. I did not need to ask where she was going, or to whom. In that moment of absolute clarity, I realized I could no longer live as second best in my own marriage. The woman I had built my life around had just confirmed my worst fear. I would never be her priority. No matter what I did, how much I loved her, or what I sacrificed, Adam would always come first. The next morning, while Sarah was still out, I called in sick to work and made an appointment with a divorce attorney. I needed professional guidance before making my next move. The lawyer listened sympathetically to my situation and outlined my options clearly. Financial infidelity is taken very seriously in divorce proceedings, she explained. The unauthorized transfers from your joint account will definitely strengthen your position. Over the next week, I gathered all necessary financial documents, including proof of the transfers to what turned out to be Adam's personal account. Nearly $30,000 of our shared savings money we had been setting aside for our future children's education had been funneled to support Sarah's more important friend. I moved out temporarily, staying with James, who offered his guest room without hesitation. Sarah called repeatedly, her messages shifting from angry demands about where I was to tearful pleas to come home so we could talk. I maintained minimal contact, only informing her that I needed space to think. 2 weeks after that fateful argument, I had her served with divorce papers at her office. Perhaps not the most considerate approach, but I needed her to understand the gravity of the situation. That evening she showed up at James's apartment, eyes red from crying. How could you do this? She demanded. Divorce papers. Without even talking to me first, I think you said everything that needed saying that night, I replied calmly. I will not stay in a marriage where I am explicitly told I will always be second best. I did not mean it like that, Sarah backpedaled. I was angry. People say things they do not mean when they are angry. The problem is, Sarah, I think you did mean it. And even if you did not, you have shown me through your actions for months that Adam comes first. The canceled plans, the financial deception, the constant prioritization of his needs over our marriage. Actions speak louder than words, and yours have been screaming. Tears streamed down her face. Please, Ashton, we can fix this. I will set better boundaries with Adam. I will go to counseling. Anything. Where is Adam now? I asked. She hesitated. What do you mean, now that I have left and you are in crisis? Where is your ever-devoted friend? Why is he not here supporting you through this difficult time? Her silence was telling. Let me guess, I continued. Once the money stopped flowing, his interest waned. Sarah's expression confirmed my suspicion. He said he needs space to process everything, that our friendship is complicated right now. I could not help but laugh bitterly. Of course he did. Sarah, I loved you completely. I would have done anything for you, but I will not compete for my place in my own marriage. The divorce proceedings were straightforward but emotionally draining. We divided our assets, equitably sold the house, and went our separate ways. Throughout the process, Adam was conspicuously absent from Sarah's side. According to mutual friends, he had started dating someone new and was taking a step back from his friendship with Sarah to focus on his new relationship. 8 months after our divorce was finalized, I ran into Sarah at a local supermarket. The sight of her stopped me in my tracks. She was visibly pregnant, at least 6 months along, judging by the size of her belly. When our eyes met, she looked simultaneously relieved and terrified. "Ashton," she said softly. "I was hoping I would run into you eventually." "Sarah," I nodded, trying to maintain my composure. "How are you managing?" she said with a sad smile, her hand resting on her stomach. "It has been challenging." We moved to the coffee shop next door to talk. Over decaffeinated tea, Sarah confessed everything. She had been having an affair with Adam for months before our separation. The pregnancy was his, but he had vanished from her life when she told him. Her family, disgusted by her behavior, had distanced themselves. She had recently lost her job due to company downsizing and was struggling financially. "I made the biggest mistake of my life," she admitted, tears filling her eyes. "I threw away a beautiful marriage for a fantasy that was never real. Adam never loved me the way you did. He just enjoyed the power he had over me, the way I would drop everything for him. Once I needed him to step up, he disappeared." "I am sorry you are going through this," I said, and I meant it. Despite everything, I did not want to see her suffer. "I have been calling your old number," she confessed. "I just wanted to apologize properly, to tell you how wrong I was, to see if there was any chance." She let the thought trail off. "Sarah," I said gently but firmly, "what happened between us cannot be undone. I have forgiven you for my own peace of mind, but that does not mean we can go back. Some bridges once burned cannot be rebuilt." "I understand," she whispered, wiping away tears. "I just want you to know how sorry I am, how much I regret everything." Before we parted, Sarah gripped my hand tightly. "You were the best thing that ever happened to me, and I was too blind to see it. I will have to live with that knowledge every day." The 10 months following my divorce became a journey of self-discovery and healing. Initially, the pain was almost unbearable. I would wake up reaching for someone who was no longer there, forgetting momentarily that my life had been upended. But gradually, day by day, the sharp edges of grief began to soften. I joined a support group for people going through divorce, finding solace in shared experiences and understanding. The group leader, a compassionate therapist named Dr. Peterson, helped me recognize that what happened was not a reflection of my worth, but rather Sarah's own issues and choices. "You cannot control the actions of others," she would remind us. "You can only control how you respond to them." I threw myself into work, earning a promotion that had been in the pipeline for months. My colleagues commented on my renewed focus and creativity, unaware of the personal turmoil that had paradoxically sparked this professional renaissance. Weekends that had once been filled with arguments about Adam became opportunities for rediscovery. I rekindled old hobbies that had fallen by the wayside during my marriage, joining a local hiking group and taking photography classes. Through these activities, I built a new social circle of genuine supportive friends. 10 months after our divorce was finalized, Sarah gave birth to a baby boy. She sent me a long, heartfelt letter afterward, not asking for anything, but simply sharing her continued regret and the lessons she had learned through her experiences. "I am a single mother now," she wrote. "Adam has made it clear he wants no part in our child's life. Every day I see the consequences of prioritizing the wrong person, of mistaking history for love. Every day I remember the real love I carelessly discarded." I responded with a brief but kind note, wishing her and her son well. I had forgiven Sarah not for her sake, but for mine. Carrying anger and resentment would only have poisoned my own healing. Through this painful journey, I learned invaluable lessons about self-respect and boundaries. I discovered that love should never require you to diminish yourself or accept less than you deserve. I learned that walking away from toxicity is not weakness but courage, that standing up for your worth is not selfishness but self-preservation. About a year after the divorce, I met Jessica at a charity event for my company. Unlike my relationship with Sarah, which had been intense and all-consuming from the start, my connection with Jessica developed slowly and thoughtfully. We became friends first, both cautious due to past relationships, but over time, that friendship blossomed into something more. Jessica respected my boundaries and understood my hesitation to fully open up. She never pushed or demanded, instead creating a space where trust could grow naturally. For the first time, I experienced what a truly balanced, healthy relationship felt like. When Sarah heard through mutual friends that I was dating someone new, she reached out again this time, clearly hoping for reconciliation. Her messages became increasingly desperate, filled with promises of change and reminders of our history together. I maintained firm boundaries respectfully, declining her attempts to reconnect romantically. "I wish you healing and happiness," I told her, "but our chapter together has closed. Looking back now, I can see how that painful experience transformed me. The man I was before would have continued accepting second place, desperately hoping things would change. The man I became understands that real love does not require constant compromise of your self-worth. If you have ever felt second best in your own relationship, know that you deserve more." Setting boundaries is not selfish, and walking away from someone who does not value you is sometimes the greatest act of self-love. Life is too short to be an afterthought in someone else's story, when you deserve to be the protagonist in your own. What relationship boundaries do you consider non-negotiable? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe to hear more stories of resilience and self-discovery. Your support means everything to this channel. Remember, sometimes the most painful endings lead to the most beautiful beginnings. Thank you for listening, and I wish you the courage to always know your worth.